Hello, I'm ShieldWar100 and I thought I'd try a slightly different type of video today, just a little quick one I think. It's a different style. We're going to go for, instead of a game report, I've just had some new releases through just today from Night Models on the new Batman Miniatures game, 3rd edition, and yeah, I thought I'd do what I'm going to call a quick critique of the new releases that I've managed to come across. It's not a unboxing, they're already unboxed, I couldn't keep my hands off them, but what it is a just a quick look at the models, the build's quality, what I think of them, and maybe some thoughts on how they're going to factor into the games. Okay, so so without further ado, I'm going to make a start with Catwoman, I think, and we'll take a look at her model. Well, here she is, the lady herself, a superb model befitting the major role she's played in the comic books from days of yore, and much more prominently recently as well. You know, she has a splendiferous miniature there with a great pose, lots of power in that stance, shall we say. Build quality was excellent. There's no modelling putty anywhere on this model. Hang on, I'll just see if I can get a little bit of a twirl going for her. So yeah, as you can see, the seams, they're really well designed seams for this model. There's no sculpting putty anywhere, and yeah, perfect. Her blister also comes with these, which I love. Get little cat tokens. There they are. These are like alternative suspect markers that Catwoman can put down, which I will get to in just a moment when we go through her rules, which, well, why not do that now? Okay, here she is. Well, here's her stat card. This is all available on the Night Models website, so I'm not spoiling anything for anyone, I hope. But yeah, there you go, 72 reputation, only 6 willpower and endurance for a free agent, but pretty good stats otherwise. That killer 5 defense makes it really difficult to get damage in on her. But yeah, I'll just you can see acrobat, backpack, bluff, we've seen those before. Climbing claws, retractable claws, sneaking, those are all standard Catwoman traits. You'll see them on just about any of the versions of Catwoman that have gone before, I believe. Meow and stealthy cats I'll come to in just a moment, but just bear in mind that acrobat with that defense 5 is really going to combine to make drawing a bead on her from shooting at range really difficult. She's a free agent, which befits her status, none making this henchman lark for named characters. For her, she's too powerful. Just will work with anyone apart from Joker, which is I'll discuss later too. Just thinking about the standout difference for this lady, it comes in with the meow rule, which I'll show you how much text gets devoted to that. But basically it allows her to, when she puts down a suspect marker, she may turn it into a cat marker as well. So you use these cool little cat models too, which are great if you ask me. Can't wait to paint them. I hate painting fur, incidentally. These cat markers also have some double purpose. Basically, they act as suspect markers in your crew for whoever she's playing for, which has its own little set of potential uses. They also allow her to, at the beginning of her movement, to teleport to any of these markers that she's put out before, which is brilliant. Does have to pick them up, by the way, but you could leave one near your deployment zone, for example, have a whole game, and then teleport back there to score a necessary card or intercept an opponent. Really potentially useful, that. Also, if Catwoman is killed or knocked out at any point, she can be teleported back to any of her previously put out cat markers and ignore the effects of the attack that put her down, which is really good and somewhat mitigates the willpower and endurance being only 6 for this game, and yeah, so that basically means as long as you've got a cat marker out there and your opponent doesn't pick it up, because I'm sure it can be revealed as per any other suspect marker, as long as your opponent doesn't pick them up, then she is effectively still on the board, which is a double whammy of not only making you feel safer to put her into danger, but also it probably just discourage your opponent from actually using their ammunition or attacking her in close combat at all. So probably give you the chance to act like that with that characteristic Catwoman arrogance on the board to use it up. Of course, if you can take out her suspect markers, her cat markers should I say, then all of a sudden she'll probably feel a whole lot more vulnerable into the bargain. She's by no means indestructible. Like I said, only 6 endurance. You can eat through that with a bad roll if you're not lucky. The other thing she can do with these cats is with a special action, she can do stealthy cats, which is another one of her traits. If I just pop her card, see, yeah, stealthy cats at the back. Bruce, just there it is. Basically, for special action, it allows her to effectively do a mini hacking, basically. But for any range, she can move each of the cat markers that she's put into play up to 4 inches. That's really, really useful again. Because moving suspect markers in this game can be the nuts. I think it depends. Again, it factors into so many different crew synergies potentially. I mean, if you just like, I don't know, trying to keep them away from your opponents or something, or trying to bring them together. I mean, for example, Two-Face has the time bomb where he blows up his own suspect markers to cause damage, and as a necessity to score points. And so all of a sudden, these cats could be carrying the bombs around for you because and she can move them, which is really good. All sorts of potential uses there. Just the mind boggles really, and she works for anyone except Joker, and of course the Court of Owls. We know that. Really, really impressive model. 72 points, so I think she comes in a little bit higher in points, than the other Catwoman women models that we've got. But I think she's worth every one, and a suitable upgraded miniature, I should say, as well from the old ones. Just for reference, I've got one of the old ones, the one I use quite a lot in my own. My own battle reports. I'm looking forward to subbing her at this older model out for the lovely new one. Yes. Okay, let's move on, shall we, to another one of the new releases. Coming in next on my list is Red Robin, Tim Drake, an oft-requested Robin. Maybe not Red Robin incarnation that people wanted, but I'm happy with Tim Drake in any configuration. I really like his character. I think he was always the most grounded of the Robins, which is, good, because Dick Grayson wasn't grounded at all. But yes, I think that this model, again, spectacular, good pose, jumping over that oil drum, and I was really dreading that bow when I saw the model, because I thought, it's going to come bent, isn't it? It's going to come all bent and curly, and I'm going to have a bugger of a job untwisting it. But no, it was a little bit of a kink at the end and the near side, and you can see I kind of buffed that out really, really quickly. Just dip it in some hot water, a little bit of bending, easy peasy. The rest of it was all good and straight, as you can see here. Again, the seams are very well hidden now. They've got this down pretty much pat. I don't think you'll see much in the way, I hope, of seams there that would need filling. I mean, there's nothing there that paint won't cover, and if it gets to that point, then everything's good, really, if you ask me. But a good dynamic pose, very much like very good for the hero's team, shall we say. And he's just a worthy addition to stand in amongst his colleagues. The card itself is here. Ditto again for it being already on the Night Models website. We've got a much more solid 7/7 for willpower and endurance. Note that this guy is a free agent for the Batman crew. None of this, again, is not being made into a potential henchman to get him on the board with others. I think he's worthwhile as a free agent, and we'll see what he brings to the table in just a second, but very standard hero-y stat line there. As you can see, his bow notably doing 1 point of stun damage per hit with handy and reach to just make sure those hits go through. But interestingly, I don't think he's going to be beating many people up during the course of his games. He's he's not someone you could just chuck at a henchman and reliably take them down. He's probably quite, statistically, he's going to struggle to do so. But he will, over the course of time, beat down most models. But now the game's been shortened to 4 turns, that single stun damage is looking a bit weak. But it's all about that electromagnetic chain bolas. I'm guessing that's what EM stands for, really, because he's got 3 rounds of that, which is, I think, more than enough to get some use out of the get used to during the course of a game. It's short range, throwing, blah blah blah, electric, which is good, but slow 6, there's the standout little statistic there that's tucked in amongst its other keywords. So anyone he hits with that is going to be reduced, they're going to be reducing their movement next time they try to by 6. So that's a potentially crippling like blow, because you don't need to kill them or just or whatever, or knock them out or anything if they can't move to be close to you. This game is so much about movement now that you can, that slow 6 is a standout, I think. Now I probably stand to be wrong, but looking at his stats, you got 360-degree strike, which is handy for his bow, I suppose. I mean, it's got reach on it, thank goodness, so he can probably get quite a few people in there. And yeah, if you can get into a bunch of really weak henchmen, he can actually start mashing out the light damage across a lot of them, which is potentially useful. But that's pretty much it for his offensive capabilities that we've seen so far. So this is no Nightwing, not even a Damian Wayne. This Tim Drake is very much his own hero, with his own emphasis on what he can do on the board, and we'll see that now with the others. So you've got Detective in there, Backclaw of course, just to give him that extra boost of speed, really really good. But Hacking, Order, Searcher there, those 3, well, including Detective, those 4 traits are going to be incredibly useful. Hacking is, I think for at one point it was only on Oracle who had that particular rule, but now a few others have got it during the course of the game, and now Tim Drake has it as well. That's a really useful thing to have on a model that's charging around the board. Usually the more static models have hacking, I think. So I'm thinking back to Oracle and the Infiltrate Operative as the standout ones who do so far. But yeah, having a more dynamic guy with hacking is potentially really useful. He can get to the, just into hacking range of those hard to reach ones and drag them towards him. Order, another potential, really useful thing if you're, or trait to have if you're playing the. If you're playing the suspect markers game, to outnumber your opponent, or even just to put out that snitch marker on someone, on a cop who's in line of sight but much harder to reach than Robin himself. And Searcher there, reducing your opponent's resource points, is becoming much more and more, shall we say, meta, or or it's just potentially useful against some of the newer crews coming out. Two-Face and the Court of Owls especially live or die by the cycling of their deck in many occasions, and so Searcher, which cuts down on those resource cards being played by your opponent, is a potential hobbler for them. Yes, you got Stealth there, which is just as well, because this guy is pretty much unique to the Robin so far. I think he doesn't have Acrobatic, which is interesting because he's only defense 4, so stealth is what's going to be mostly stopping him from being gunned down from across the board. It means that people further than 8 inches away, unless they're augmented in some way generally, or that he's stepped into the light for some reason, they can't shoot at him, they can't see him to do so. He'll need to be using that quite well, but yeah, he's Red Robin is not a defensive powerhouse like, again, a Nightwing or a Damian Wayne. He just doesn't have that acrobat role, which is fine. I mean, he's got plenty of other things going for him. I don't want them all to be identikit, otherwise what's the point? But yes, interesting thoughts. I mean, at 76 reputation, he's starting to get and taking up the slot for the free agent. He's like I said, he's not an offensive based model, not to my mind anyway. He'll frustrate the opponent with those chain bolas and everything like that, but he won't be guaranteeing kills. But he's starting to come in at the same points costs and taking up the same slots as these two, so Red Hood and Katana and plenty of other candidates in the Batman sided crew. I mean, like I compared him to Nightwing before, but Nightwing is a sidekick, so he won't be taking up the same slot, shall I say, in the crew builder, but same sort of similar points range. But more importantly, these two have got demonstrably more offensive capabilities They just don't do the same. They don't have the same suspect manipulation as this lovely little selection of traits down here does. So yeah, I mean, it's an interesting. You've now got more choices in the Batman crew as regards what we want to do. I mean, if you're taking a much more offensive style of Batman who can do the punching for them, if you're taking police who are much more offensively minded, so you're loading up on SWAT officers if you can do that, as opposed to just general detectives and stuff. Models that come with like guns that can kill people, as opposed to riot guns that knock people out. Interestingly, this Red Robin doesn't have arrest either baked into his card, so that's something that's really got to bear that in mind. He's really not for removing any models from the board. He's for about interacting with your deck, scoring those cards that come up for related to suspect markers, and obviously running interference, frustrating your opponent's attempts to score, and he's very good at that. But he's not about removing bodies from the field, which is what these two and several others in the Batman crew are. I mean, these are just two I picked up because they're on my shelf, and they were obvious candidates to me. But there's lots of Teen Titans who can do this, and a whole bevy of others. There's cheaper versions of Batman and Nightwing and all that lot. Okay, so I think that will conclude Red Robin. I think he's a great addition to the crew. He'll sit proudly on my painting shelf once he's done, in my display cabinet, shall I say. And yeah, I look forward to putting him on the board and seeing if anything that I've just said makes any sense. Riddler next. This is an interesting version. Interestingly enough, he's a team leader that I haven't actually used before on my channel, because I don't dare try to use his crew in a solo game. It's all I can do to keep up with two independent crews and their respective decks. Riddler adds a whole extra layer of fun and shenanigans to his crew's way of playing, really, and there's a lot of traits in his crew across the entire lot of them, which just takes a little bit too much concentration for me to be comfortable. I'll be doing justice to them. When I get an opponent in to do games, I will no doubt be using this crew at some point, because with one crew I think I can give them the attention they deserve. But nonetheless, this model is great. I like it. You can see his trademark bowler hat on top of the chair behind him. It looks a bit like Jim Carrey. I'm not going to lie, which is possibly my least favourite version of this character, which I really like. I just never liked. I always thought that Carrey was basically told to play him like a discount Joker, because they couldn't get Joker back because they killed him in a previous movie, because that's what they did back then. Silly. So never was a big fan of Jim Carrey's Joker. No problem with Jim Carrey himself. Jim Carrey's Riddler, sorry. I just didn't like that way of doing the guy. I was much relieved when I saw this character in Arkham City and how they managed to play him really well. Anyway, this model, great. Sits on a chair, which is fine. I'll tell you why in a moment. He's not meant to be running around the streets on his porter chair. But no, he's great. He's got his two little thinkers next to him. Let's give it a bit of a twirl. Yeah. So as you can see, pretty sound. A little bit of filling will be required on the backs of those two statues, trust me, but nothing much. And they're statues, so then it's not like they have really necessarily detailed backs or anything like that. So I mean, that'll take me a second. So yeah, again, build quality is pretty good. Bit tricky. You get so many arms with this set that it was trying to work out which one went with which, because there's two statues and the man himself. So yeah, but you get there, and the grooves that they fit into fit them really well. So a little bit of dry fitting, and if you do get this model, you'll be fine, which is just as well, because he's quite expensive, rocking in at just over 30 quid, I think, and that's for one model. That's a lot, but sculpt quality is lovely, as long as you like the model. It's all subjective, isn't it? So but I like him. This is the previous version of the Riddler, which I have, and I have used him before. There's the main difference between the way these two play is that this Riddler is walking around the street and can be hit and punched and stuff. Meanwhile, this version of the Riddler is representing him actually off-board, coordinating things from his bunker, his tech complex, or whatever you want to imagine it. And this marker represents his focus of attention on the board, much like Oracle, exactly the same as Oracle actually. So you'll imagine him, viewing the battlefield from above, from a drone, hacking into CCTV cameras and issuing commands. Whatever you want, you know, camera feeds on his actual crew members himself. I don't know. Just use your imagination. That's what we have to do. We're hobbyists, wargamers, you know. There's his stat card. So it's largely the same actually as the other guy, except the endurance is only 5. But we'll come to that in just a second. Look at all those horrible traits that we have to look at. Yes, I'm not going to do a blow-by-blow account. Don't you worry. It's not that boring. But yes, basically, yeah. Most of these traits tie in very well to his objective deck, because if you're playing the Riddler crew, then you're probably almost certainly taking the Riddler in it. There's only one sidekick in there so far, and so yeah, that's you're going to be taking him basically. There's really no point taking his crew if you're not taking him. To my knowledge, I'm sure someone out there has got a killer list, but you know, you're playing Riddler, you're taking Riddler. Yeah, but yes, so let me see. Conundrum King is like a sort of a weird debuff you can put on enemy models to give them enervating. There's hacking again. That's the main difference between this model and this model. This one comes with hacking, which is the one we saw on Red Robin before. Allows you to really mess around with suspect markers, which is very much more useful for his own deck, but can also futz with sewer markers and lampposts and all that. So yeah, very potentially useful trait indeed. Intel supports the one where it basically says that he can't be attacked or be targeted or anything like that. He basically doesn't exist on the board in terms of opponents trying to attack him. It basically also, however, every time one of his suspect markers is removed from the board, revealed should I say, that's when he takes 1 point of blood damage effectively to represent his network being damaged, and that's where his 5 endurance comes in. So 5 suspect markers of his get removed and then he'll be off the board, but he can come straight back the next turn by sacrificing one of your 4 audacity counters. So pretty damn useful. I'm looking forward to seeing how that works in practice. Mastermind means he's more likely to get the initiative each turn. Puzzle Master and Quiz Master and Wizard of Quiz, I sort of forget the exact meaning of. Let me have a quick reminder. Oh yeah, you can put down double the suspect markers and put them within 6 inches. So again, putting out those amazing, really useful, suspect markers, which ties right into his own crew specific objective deck. He's made for his crew, shall we say. And yeah, Wizard of Quiz allows you to, when you put down a suspect marker near an enemy model, generally, you can then mess with your opponent's objective deck. How frustrating is that? And finally, Quizmaster, when he does score an objective, you can search through for copies of that card and put them straight into your hand as well. So yeah, again, these rules are all ones which I would struggle to keep up with if I was trying to play as a solo, with trying to do justice to 2 different crews. But if you're playing against your other opponents, then yeah, he's going to really mess with them, which is just as well, because as the leaders go, he is not doing most of the leader stuff. So he's no Batman, he's no Bane, he's definitely not a Deathstroke. He's not a Ra's al Ghul. He's not even a Joker or a Two-Face. He's not doing any punching, and his crew doesn't do that particularly well either. So you'll be out trying to outscore your opponent on cards and interference and all stuff like that, whilst doing just enough damage to keep them away. I think. I could be wrong. But yeah, I mean, that's my impression. And yeah, so heavy lifting on Riddler's part is not something you're going to be getting in terms of removing enemy models from the board, but that's fine, because that's the style of play you are buying into when you get the Riddler crew. I would not recommend the Riddler crew to anyone who wants to make friends, because you won't. Get some friends first by playing a different game or by playing a different crew in this game, and then if you really want to do Riddler, bring them out and see how strong those bonds are that you've made, okay? Because your opponent is going to be really quite annoyed when you start messing with his objective deck and denying him cards. Right, I'm going to finish up my look at the Riddler, and let's start on the last set of models that I'm going to look at today. And finally, we have a triumvirate of tricksters. Well, Riddlers, shall we say, because it's the Riddler Thugs. A 3-pack, so I'm doing them all together, of replacement or extra goons for the already released bat box. I forgot to mention the last 2 Riddlers were all equal points as well, so you can literally switch them out if you wanted to. Much the same in this case. Some of these are replacement, switch outs for some of their colleagues, but with some potentially just a little bit extra emphasis on certain things. We'll start from the left. We got this guy who's supposed to be a little mimic of Charlie Chaplin. Great model. I like him. He very much looks like he didn't want to put on the leotard because his frame is very slender indeed, and he kind of reminds me of someone who's trying to sneak away from things rather than get stuck in. He seems to have picked up Finn O'Farrell's heavy question mark walking stick thing that the other model has from the bat box, because it's got the same stats. And yeah, this guy in function is funnily enough, he's a henchman but a beater basically. He doesn't have any traits which help with objectives or anything like that. He has electric storm and combo with that stick, so I assume he swings it around like Charlie Chaplin does in some of his old films with the umbrella or walking stick. And yeah, he's not particularly defensive or offensive or whatever. There's his stat line. 6 willpower stands out, but whether that will last long enough when he's got 4 endurance, I do not know. But yeah, 28 points. He's all right. He's a alternative use henchman if you want. And yeah, it's good to have someone who can actually put some damage out in the Riddler crew, as opposed to choosing whether they do that or like score or whatever. Okay, moving on, we've got a Clockwork Orange inspired guy. I don't know if I can get decent. He's got a really good expression on his face. I don't know if I can show it though. Yeah, he's got the baseball bat there. Here's his crew. Here's his stat card. A bit more rounded, 5/6 for willpower and endurance. Generally standard stat line for goons these days. There's his bat, 1 point as stun damage, not great, but handy and heavy will help him keep those hits coming if as long as he's not taking on anyone too useful. But there you go. Interestingly, the crew is a trait we haven't seen, I don't think, on anyone else, and it's a special one, which I believe, I'm going to double check now because I might have forgotten. Oh yeah. Any friendly models to this guy with the same affiliation as this guy, should I say? Is it henchman or is it? Sorry. Yeah, all friendly models, not just henchmen, within 8 inches of him, with his affiliation, get a plus 2 inch movement counter. That's potentially really kind of useful. Just that little extra soupçon of movement there at the beginning of a game, perhaps, just to give everyone that little explosion of movement. Potential worth putting him in the crew for that potentially. But yeah, I mean, otherwise he's just an extra guy to help you out putting down your suspect markers or what have you over the course of the game, and he's quite inexpensive. Finally, the most interesting of them all, we have Finn O'Farrell again. I think he's probably one of the only henchmen to have multiple versions in the game. I can't think of any other named henchmen who I've not really come across, but yeah, this is this guy, but he's on a little scooter, which is awesome. So shut up. Yes, this is him. He's also stolen Riddleman's bag of little question marks, little Riddler trophies, and he's distributing them from the back of from this scooter, which is a lovely little image. I think he's had to give, as you can see, he's obviously had to give up the heavy question mark walking stick to do so. So his offensive capabilities are a little bit diminished, but his offense is there, and so his speed is up for the scooter because he's got all the rules which are incumbent with it. As you can see, there's mechanical mount there. He's still got reinforced gloves and electric storm, so he can still put out some damage. He's got the same stat line in terms of his willpower, endurance, attack, defense, blah blah blah. Interestingly, I've noticed a typo on his stat card. 28 reputation. Oops, that's a mistake. It's not the same as that on the Night Models website. He's actually 47 points, which is makes much more sense on the website. So I'll be going over that with a Sharpie. It's really not a big deal to me. I mean, as long as I know what the actual points are, that means that's. I don't care what the card says as such. The card's correct on the website. I gather that Night Models is looking to be bringing their card printing and production in-house, as opposed to whoever it is they're using already. That should make this sort of issue a lot less problematic for them, shall we say. I mean, like I said, I don't know. As long as I know what the actual reputation is, I can work with it I'm not that kind of, I've never been that person, but just worth mentioning it to all of you guys who might be looking to build a crew out of this lot, because you think, oh, he's a bargain, when in fact he's not such a bargain, but for 47 points, still a bit of a bargain. But yeah, he's got luck there, that's useful. Drop a riddle, same as Riddle Man, which, what's it do again? God, I forget the Riddler's traits. You played oh yeah, it lets you, as long as you keep playing resources, you can put down suspect markers or riddle trophies, basically, which all factors in again to the objective deck, which is Riddler's own. So like I said, this won't mean much to you unless you already know about the Riddler, but I'm just here to look at the models. And again, these guys, all three of them, really good quality builds. No filling required on any of them, just the usual work I'll need to do on the bases, just to, you know, so the cobblestones match up a bit better, but yeah, that's pretty much a universal thing now for all of them. And yeah, I've really looked forward to getting these models out on the board. That means I'll have an opponent, that's why. And yeah, I'll be moving on with them to paint them as soon as I possibly can. Okay, well, I hope you like this rather impromptu little video I managed to cobble together. If you did, then let me know. If you think it sucks and I'm all wrong, then shut up. No, let me know. It's fine. You know, I might do more of these as I get more releases through, or as the fancy takes me. I mean, obviously, the battle reports will carry on. This is by no means a replacement. This is just a little addition in case you guys wanted to see. And yeah, I hope that my thoughts meant something. I hope they weren't all wrong. I'm sure time will tell. This is just my ramblings. Okay, well, I'll leave you to it, and take care everyone. I'm Shieldwall100, and ta-da!